Hey everyone, my name is Mario, and today I'm going to show you how I made this fireplace. I started by cutting a piece of 1/2 inch thick plywood into more manageable sized pieces. Please note that the sizes shown are approximate and can be adjusted accordingly to meet your specifications. Here, I'm cutting the panels that will make up the front, back, and one of the sides of the legs. The fourth side, which will be the door, will be cut after the legs are completed and attached to the bottom board of the header. I used glue and brad nails to secure the boards together. I didn't show it, but I used a speed square to make sure the boards were perpendicular. If you're wondering if I used a Jackson Pollock to build this, haha, I didn't, but I did run out of new plywood and didn't want to go to the store to buy more, so I used the board I normally use on top of the sawhorses. I used MDF to attach the two legs. I scored big time because I got a full sheet that had some damage for $10. This piece was cut to about 13 inches in width, but kept it at the 48 inches in length. I used a round over bit to go over the edges to give it a different profile. Here, I made sure there was 1.5 inches of overhang around the legs. Then I glued and nailed the board to the top of the legs, making sure it was nailed to the perpendicular boards. When it came time to install the doors, I made sure there was clearance both on the top and the bottom. I went with some inexpensive hinges from the hardware store and followed the manufacturer's instruction. Check out the cup on the top left corner. Says something about this project, doesn't it? Now that the skeleton of the legs was completed and attached, I moved over to building the header. The header has a pull-out drawer, that's why I ripped a 16-inch board into 11.5 and 4.5 inch pieces. I cut the sides to 12 inches in length because that will allow a 1-inch overhang when I attach the header to the bottom header board. Or so I thought. Stick around and you'll see an obstacle I came across. Well, one of several. To give it some rigidity, I added some corner brackets. For the the Mantelshelf, I went with 1-inch thick pine board, cut to at least 56 inches. Yeah, here was another mistake I had to rectify. I forgot to account for the crown molding I was going to use. I also wanted an inch overhang past the molding once installed, so I ripped a pine board and attached it to the other two for a final depth of 18.5 inches. I added pocket holes to the top where I was going to attach the Mantelshelf, and to the sides so I could later attach it to the bottom header board. I just wanted to make sure it was centered before attaching the Mantelshelf. Here, I'm measuring the piece that will be used as a hearth. See that little damage there? Because of that, I was able to get a full sheet for $10. So here's the tip. Always check out the clearance or markdown sections of your lumber area. Sometimes you'll find what you need for a fraction of the original price. I cut 6 pieces off a 2x4 that will make the legs of the hearth. It will be covered with baseboard, so make sure that their height plus the thickness of the hearth board equal the height of the baseboard. The baseboard was installed like normal. Just measure and cut 45-degree miters. I used crown molding with a spring angle of 45 degrees and the header and Mantelshelf made a right angle. This meant that I had to set my miter angle to 35.3 degrees and my bevel angle to 30 degrees. Now it's time to cut the board that will be used as the base for the slide-out drawer. I placed the drawer rails in to get the length between them. This will be the length of the board. I bought the smallest rails available, but they were still too long, so I had to cut them to size. I added hinges because this could allow me to just swing down the header panel if I don't want to pull out the drawer. Now it's time to cut the strips of trim. I went with a 2-inch width all around. For the inner trim, I just used base cap. So I hit a roadblock. When I put the crown molding on, I didn't account for the thickness of the trim that's going to go around the front. Because of that, I'm left with this piece jetting out like this. The only way I think I can fix this is if I put this board against the edge of this panel, draw a line and cut that piece out. That way this sits farther in. When this piece gets put back into place, it'll be at around the same spot where this piece ends, right here. So how am I going to do that? I've yet to figure it out, but you'll see in a few seconds. Ah yes, the trusty jigsaw. I made sure to take my time to get a straight cut. Now with the drawer in place and the trim fitting the way I wanted it, I nailed it in place. After this was completed and before I could move it into the house for assembly, I patched the nail holes, primed it, and painted it. After centering the header, I secured it using the pocket hole screws and then attached the rails. The mantle has some weight, but I still wanted to secure it to the hearth to prevent it from sliding off. One issue that I came across was when I installed the door catch. In order for it to work properly, it has to be able to be pushed back in order to go forward. But if I install the door flush to the trim, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I had to move the catch slightly forward. Unfortunately, that leaves the door edge exposed. But I can fix that by adding a piece of trim that's thick enough to cover the door edge while it's in its closed position. But it still allows me to catch the door edge with my thumb after I activate the catch. Now all I have to do is glue it and nail it into place, then paint it so I can blend it in. You can't have efficient storage without shelves. Each leg will have 2 shelves equally spaced. These shelves were later painted, and here is the final product. Thanks for sticking around. This was absolutely a great project to work on. It has been one of my most detailed projects to date, although it did have its challenges. Before choosing a final design, I researched dozens of others. And because this is custom built, there were some issues that sneaked up on me. But it was bound to happen because I spent more time building than planning. Nevertheless, it turned out great. And if you think so too, please don't forget to like, comment, and share. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. See you next time.